And here we go. Let it go for a few seconds. We have green check marks already across the board. Here we go. What's up, Broncos country? It's Wednesday night, which means it's time for another episode of Mile High Insiders. With me for a second consecutive show, since we did a little bit of a remix, a little bit of a show mix up, if you will. Thomas Hall, what's going on, buddy?
How you doing? I'm surviving.
Fantastic.
I'm
fantastic, dude. We got 2 weeks in a row of the new look MHI. A ton to get into. Super Bowl's over. We're going to talk about that. Hash that out a little bit. But I'm fantastic, man, because we're one day closer to Broncos football. I know it's still far away. It's, this crazy thing, distant in a lot of people's minds, with Broncos country really zeroed in on the Avs, the Nuggets right now. But we got tons of football we got to get to in this show. So Absolutely. I am fantastic, Tom.
That's great, man. I know you got dumped on with a lot of snow, so let's hope for the best as we roll through the show. Got a little bit down here, but not too bad.
Yeah, it's interesting because on the days they should call snow days, they don't here. And on the days where it's just a little cold, apparently they do. So it's a whole thing here in Colorado. I mean, I guess the PTAs got really upset. I'm getting emails from the school administrators saying, we apologize about monitoring. We need to get these kids in school, all right? My daughter already has like President's Day off Monday. I think she's off Friday. How many days off did you guys get when you were in school? Because it seems like in today's day and age, man, these kids we just got off Christmas break and Valentine's Day. I get it. You're not going to do a lot in school that day. Anyway, I digress. What's up, everybody? Tom, Luke, Scott here on MHI. I want to say hello to some folks in the stream before we get to our Broncos news of the day. Mike S., our guy, Bama, first one in. Appreciate you. What's up, Tom, Luke, Dylan, Chat, and Scott? One of our own. Speaking of Dylan Von Ars. Sup, Broncos country. Make sure you hit that like button on the way in. Share on all platforms and subscribe if you have not done so already. Be sure to head on over to milehighhuddle.com where you can check out Dylan Von Arx's latest work as well. And say a hello to a good friend, Michaela Israel. What's up, Michaela? Hopefully you're doing well. Tom, you got to meet Michaela, hang out with her at the MHH meet and greet last fall. Huge congratulations to her. Just got her bachelor's degree, I believe, in psychology. I want to make sure I'm saying that right, not psychiatry. I could still be screwing it up. I had a little celebration today, so we want to make sure we celebrate our own. Congratulations, Michaela.
Yeah, congratulations. Thanks for being here. It's wonderful to see you. Alessandro coming in. Hello, Thomas, Luke, Dylan, and the rest of Broncos country. Let's ride. I think everyone wants to change it to something else, I think. Let's ride, but we're still going to do it.
You know what? And we're changing it here in Broncos country, especially here in Mile High Huddle. Head on over to the huddleuppod.com store. Grab yourself an MHI hat. Tom's got one coming in since he is the other half of MHI. And get a Buckham t-shirt. I don't know if you saw these yet, Tom, but I am in love. I texted Chad right away as soon as they came out saying, dude, I need one of these t-shirts. Hashtag Buckham. It's got Sean Payton's sweet MHH. Well, not MHH, but a visor. It's orange threads. It's going to look really good with this hat, guys. I'm telling you. Hashtag Buckham. That's the huddleuppod.com store. Got to be sure to give everybody a plug there. EDJ coming in with a congrats to Michaela. That's always awesome. Kenneth Patterson in the house. Patrick Wilsey. Todd Ostendorf. What's going on? Scott weighing in on the ones and twos. And he thinks his kids have 4 or 5 day weeks all year. Yeah, man. I mean, these kids, dude, they're not, and forgive me, an old man moment, but they don't do a lot of work in school anymore, Tom. They really don't. God bless all our teachers for having to put up with them. But sometimes the curriculum, it needs a shakeup. And that's what we're doing here at MHI. We're talking about a shakeup. Coaching. Sean Payton has got to figure out his coaching staff, Tom. The Super Bowl is over. Not that I didn't love seeing Coach on the Pat McAfee show or, giving some of those real good gems and interviews to Mike Kliss, but it's time to start figuring things out here. Broncos country wants to know who the coaching staff of the 2023 Denver Broncos is going to be. Slowly but surely, they're starting to get some answers.
Yeah, and that's just it. I mean, we are sitting here looking at unknowns and wondering, we've got all these pro days coming up. We've got combine. Let's get this thing together. Michael Ronquillo, thank you so much coming in from Facebook Stars. It's always great seeing you here. We really appreciate all the support and all of the comments that you bring to this chat. And Michael says, good evening, Luke and Thomas Hall on The Mile High
Yeah.
Insiders, go Broncos. We
And
appreciate you,
Deacon
man.
and Deacon Scott, I know he's thinking of Scott in the back too. Mike, thank you so much. Huge $50 super chat over on Facebook. Those Facebook stars mean a lot to us. Help us keep the lights on here at MHH, especially in that off season. So thank you, Mike. And I'd be curious, Michael. The Super Bowl was in his home state of Arizona. Broncos country is everywhere, not a
Absolutely.
geographical location, a state of being. See the mission statement over at milehighhuddle.com. But it's one of these things, man, where I'm wondering, how was it? If you were there in Arizona, let us know in the chat. Let us know how the Super Bowl was. It looked like it was okay on the outside, but those field conditions, my goodness, it looked horrible. I don't know if it was the paint. I don't know what it was. They had a gentleman, the sod father. I know it wasn't his fault. This is a 95-year-old gentleman or so out there who's done every single one of the fields before the Super Bowl. This one was a little different. It looked like they were out there on ice.
Yeah, it was awful conditions. It was awful all around. The fact that the Chiefs won was awful. And I was I watched that, and the big thing that I took away, there was a lot of things that could have happened, but the one thing that I took away from that is they have enough just getting pressure. You got to get sacks on Mahomes if you're going to beat him. He's so good against the pressure, and that's what I'm looking for. As we start to talk a little bit more about these coaches, defensive coordinators, who's going to be able to get those Broncos defenders to the quarterback and take him to the ground.
Who's going to do it? It's got to be multiple guys, right? Because Pat Mahomes just keeps coming at you, especially on one leg. Michaela in the channel saying, "What up, Scott? Glad you're back." Scott returning from vacation. I think Nick is coming back. Nick's back. He'll be on the pods here shortly, I'm sure. But I saw his tweets. He had to sit in the airplane with a screaming infant or something like that. And it's like, serves you right for a beautiful vacation in Hawaii, Nick Kendall. I hope that flight was long, brother. I hope it was long, but we've all been there, man. It's almost like a rite of passage. Once you get through one of those screaming baby flights, you should be good to go for at least 5 or 6 more. Phil McLaughlin coming in with some support. Thank you, Phil. Appreciate you so much. Good evening, Thomas, Luke, and Deacon Scott. Welcome back to Scott. Hashtag MHH for life. Hashtag buck 'em. And that's what I'm talking about, man. Buck 'em. Because you know me, Tom. I've been with me for a long time, and I don't apologize just for anything. And I'm very unapologetic, especially with my tweets. And I feel like buck 'em just kind of says it for me. It kind of does it. Not that we've coined it or anything here at MHH, but we're definitely leaning into it. Phil, I would love to see you in one of those shirts. Dom Harmio, another one of our good guys, coming in saying, "Scott Kennedy, hope you enjoyed your vacation, buddy." It's cool to see so many of our friends and family support us when we're on vacation, because we've got another guy or gal ready to come in and pinch hit. I saw Eric on with Carl last night for Building the Broncos. You and I have switched up shows a few different times. It's cool, man. It's cool to see that support, and cool to see that people care about us. Even when we're not here, we're on vacation, people want to ask how things go. Phil, thank you so much, man. Appreciate your support. Saw one in here real quick, and we're going to get to some Broncos news, folks, because Sean Payton is starting to assemble a staff. And I know it's slow. Yeah, I know it's slow. David Yonkin, I see you. Congratulations to Michaela on her degree. Appreciate everybody in the stream right now. So let's get to it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Zach
Strife. For the support, Phil. Sorry.
Yeah, Zach. No, you're good. You're good. A few days ago, right before the Super Bowl or so, last week, Zach Strife. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Strife, I think. Yeah.
Strife. Okay. Well, we don't know, because he has yet to be like officially announced. I mean, not like they're going to roll out the red carpet for all these guys, but he was hired as the offensive line coach. Zach Strife's coming over from the New Orleans Saints. Surprise, surprise. He was an assistant offensive line coach over there. He played offensive line with the New Orleans Saints. We touched on that a little bit last week on MHI, but you've got Declan Doyle. Today, reports indicating that Declan Doyle will be the new Broncos tight ends coach. Surprise, surprise, coming over from the New Orleans Saints, where he was an offensive assistant. Somewhere on that plane, Nick Kendall is smiling because he's from Iowa. At least he's had some coaching in Iowa there. And then Dan Dalrymple, reports are suggesting he's going to be the new strength and conditioning coach. Spent 16 years with the Saints, Tom. So here we go. Common theme. Logan Kilgore, he was named as offensive quality control coach in the passing game. Now, I shouldn't say he was named, but reports are indicating these three gentlemen have landed jobs with the Denver Broncos. Now, Logan Kilgore, his last position, he coached Arch Manning. He was the offensive coordinator over at Newman High
Yeah.
School. So I absolutely like to see some creativity. I like to see some of the guys that Sean Payton is familiar with. But Logan Kilgore, he's got me buzzing right now because you say Arch Manning, my ears perk up.
Yeah, it's funny. He wasn't just that. He started at Arkansas State. He got his start there. So he has some college. It's not just high school background, but Peyton Manning and any of the Mannings kind of have a special place in Broncos hearts. So, anything that can get us closer to drafting Arch Manning, I guess people get excited, and that's one of them. So that's one check mark.
Yeah, well, and you've got to figure it out. And I know it's hard when it's not a huge name. It's hard for everybody. It's hard
Right.
for me. I don't know every single coach in the NFL, and I'm not going to pretend that I do. So many times I'm on the road talking with guys and gals, and if they want to talk, when you're on the road and you're doing scouting evaluations, you're there to either, tell Dick Cheney jokes at the bars or put in work. And if I talk to somebody, I try to introduce myself all the time because just because you haven't heard of them doesn't mean they're
Right.
not worth their salt. I mean, a long time ago, Sean McVay was just an assistant for Mike Shanahan and Kyle Shanahan
Yeah.
too, and some
Right.
of these cats. So talent can come from anywhere, especially in the coaching realm. But I'm happy to see the offensive side is getting assembled. Defense, we're kind of waiting on, and there's a big
Yeah.
fish, a big sexy Rexy fish, Rex Ryan. There's a Fox report put out there a few days ago, Thomas, about Rex Ryan possibly being considered as defensive coordinator here in Denver under head coach Sean Payton. What do you think? Initial impression?
Well, he has a great track record as a defensive coordinator and a defensive coach. There's no doubt about that. Most of his teams ranked fairly high when it comes to points against. Jacob Foster, thank you very much for coming in with the support.
Jake.
That's
What's
awesome.
up,
Thank you so
Jake?
much.
Haven't seen you in a minute, buddy. Hopefully you're doing well. Jake won one of our MHI shirts last year. So
Nice.
I know he's out there repping our threads. But yeah, man, Rex Ryan, yeah, you obviously hit the nail on the head. He comes in with his accomplishments popping off the resume.
Yeah. But I do have some reservations, of course. I always do.
Yeah,
when it
you don't
comes
want to
to
put your foot in your mouth or
That's
anything
right.
like that. You don't want to get one foot
Exactly.
ahead of the other just yet.
Exactly.
But Rex Ryan, does he have his foot in the door? We don't
I don't
know.
know. It's hard to
I'm
say. It's so weird because the Rob Ryan experiment in New Orleans didn't work out so well. So now what's the Rex Ryan experiment going to be? So there's a few things that I kind of have a give me pause. One, he's been out of it for a while. The last time he coached was 2016.
6 years. Yep.
Yeah. So he hasn't been doing it for a while. So that, not that you forget that stuff, but anytime you do something and you stop doing it for a while, you start to forget. It's like a learning. You learned a language and then you start to forget it. Stuff like that. The other thing that gives me pause, and I was talking to you before this, is I found an old playbook of Rex Ryan from 2010, and it's 80 pages long. And I started looking through it, and most of the base defenses and most of the defensives in that were cover three. Now, there's nothing really wrong with cover three, except for when I think about who the Broncos have to go through to get ultimate success. They got to go through Joe Burrow. They got to go through Pat Mahomes. They got to go through Allen in Buffalo, right? And Burrow can slice up a cover three better than anybody, right? And that gives me pause. And then second of all, they put a lot of emphasis on the linebackers, right? In cover three to cover the seam or cover the flat, right? And we don't have, when we look at the Broncos roster, I don't see a massive cover tight end or cover linebacker on the roster that's going to
Of
be
course
able
not. Of course
to
you don't, because
make
George
that
Payton
difference.
refuses to draft linebackers. I don't know why, and I like George Payton, but it's one thing that drives me absolutely nuts.
Yep.
It
So
pisses me off. I was up there, and I know Logan Wilson, the reach or whatever. I get it. Chad Muma was there last year. You didn't want to do anything about that. And Baron Browning, don't give me Baron Browning. Baron Browning was drafted as a linebacker, but he's an edge player. I mean, they've made that convert there, and it is what it is. I still would have liked to see Baron Browning play linebacker. He's a fine edge. He really is, but I would have loved, and I would still fight I'll fight you, Tom. Baron Browning should still be a linebacker. But I mean,
Yeah.
you're exactly right. If you're talking about a Rex Ryan defense, we need to start looking at the coverages. And I found it fascinating that you were able to pull a 2010 New York Jets defense seemingly right off of Google, and I've
Yeah.
downloaded it as well. But you said it first, and something that we can't overemphasize. He's going to get to the quarterback, man. This is a coach that loves to send pressure. His defenses have been ranked in the top 9 in sacks 5 different times. He's had top 10 ranked defenses in 9 out of his 12 seasons as a
Yep.
defensive coordinator or head coach. So how do you beat Pat Mahomes? You got to beat up Pat Mahomes. And I
Right.
know he does a lot with one leg. Well, that is very evident. But you've got to hit this guy. I want to put some pressure on these young receivers. He doesn't have world beaters out there at receiver. He really doesn't. Like Sky Moore, okay, I see you, but you were wide open on that one, bud. Like, especially in the Super Bowl, I'm talking just a few days ago.
Right.
Let's put pressure on some of these younger receivers. Your corners, your DBs, they should be seasoned. They should be vets. They should be able to catch these guys a little bit. And let's find a way to get to the quarterback. That's where your edge rushers come in. That's where a guy like Draymond Jones comes in. Are you going to commit to him? We don't know. We're still trying to figure out the coaching staff, let alone getting some players back, because that's what all the players are saying. And our guy Gary Palmer coming in with a huge, generous 1999 super. Appreciate you, GLP, saying good evening. Thomas, Luke, and Scott finally starting to fill some holes. I think Sean Payton is playing it close to the vest. Hashtag MHH for life. You're exactly right, GLP. I mean, Sean Payton is making sure that he is taking his time and trying to get this decision right. But
Yep.
I wonder, how long can you afford to keep this going? I think the Broncos got the right guy in head coach Sean Payton. It took forever to get here, but we're talking about assistants now. You should have at least had an idea when you were getting
Yeah.
these interviews of the type of staff you wanted to put together. I'm hoping this isn't a bad sign.
I am too. If you're bringing Rex Ryan's name up is a bit of a weird sign to me, right? I mean,
It's a
I
reach.
figure, yeah, it really is. And the other thing too is he's been accused of having very complicated defenses, very complicated adjustments, checks that based on what the team was, what they're running, and people weren't allowed to just play, and that coming in brand new to a defense that has no idea what what the 80-page playbook's going to be. That's gonna start out fairly slow until people can start getting the hang of it. And then if you get an injury or two, someone making the calls, that can affect the defense. So my personal approach would be to bring someone in that isn't too far removed from what they were using before, someone from that kind of branch, so to speak, from that tree, to come in and coach the defense. But Rex Ryan seems like a very different. I know he runs a 3-4 at times, but I'm talking about the other parts of the defense, because 3-4 rarely gets run anymore. Actually, I mean it when you're actually
Yeah.
playing. So
Yeah, and why is that? Because the league is going to such a pass happy. I mean, it's there. It's a pass happy, eccentric offensive league. That's where we're at. No longer can you have these guys like Vince Wilfork out there on first down to try to plug a run, because these quarterbacks and these offensive coordinators and play callers, they're going to understand that you can gas this guy out easy by
yeah,
playing a left and right, east and west type of game. Defensive linemen are more athletic and strong and smaller than they've ever been before. And I'm not just talking about Aaron Donald. I've been around Draymond Jones, not only at training camp, but off the field as well. And this guy, you wouldn't know he's a defensive lineman. If you would have popped him into like the 80s or the 90s and said he's a defensive lineman, guys would have been looking at you funny. They'd have
yeah,
been looking at him like, maybe he's a big linebacker or something like that.
sure,
Because you've got to have a heavy emphasis on an athletic defensive line as well. Ray Osborne coming in saying, I think maybe Rex Ryan is outdated. 6 years is a long time, man. It's a long time for sure. And a lot changes in 6 years, but a lot also stays the same. We're not talking about you needing to be a rocket scientist here to call an NFL defense. I mean, for the love of God, Vic Fangio was just employed by the Philadelphia Eagles for what, a couple weeks, and you see where that got him. And I
yeah,
know the referees, that's a whole nother thing, man. Because truth be told, and I hate to say it, Nick Bolton should probably have been the Super Bowl MVP. I think he made history. He got robbed on a few calls there. 2 touchdowns. I mean, come
yeah,
on, man. They're
yeah,
taking one back. But I digress. I mean, Vic Fangio was out for a year. Not 6 years, I know, totally different time period, but I think he was a little rusty, and I think that there would probably be some issues there with a new look Rex Ryan defense. But one thing that I absolutely love about Rex Ryan is that he stays current with the beef. And what I mean by that is being employed on ESPN for 6 years. He knows what's wrong with this Denver Broncos team. He called Russell Wilson's play last year, quote, pathetic, and absolutely stands by it. For better or for worse, Rex Ryan's behavior is Rex Ryan's behavior. He doesn't pretend to be someone else. He doesn't pretend to be something he's not. Hell, his brother, Rob Ryan, is an assistant with the Raiders right now on the defense over there. How great would it be to get more of a rivalry in this AFC West as a little brother on brother right now? I would absolutely love that. And you're right. Rob Ryan didn't have a lot of success with the Saints. 1 year, I think he had success in like a top 10 defense, if I'm not mistaken. But Rex, Rob, two different guys, twins, sons of the great, right? Buddy Ryan, that 1985 Chicago Bears defense. Correct me if I'm wrong, because you're a master on history. Wasn't Buddy Ryan the only coordinator to be carried off of the field after a Super Bowl win?
I believe so. I believe you're right. I think
I
he was.
mean, that gives me goosebumps thinking about it. And I will say 2015 Denver Broncos were still better than the 85 Bears. I'm going to stand by that one.
That's a tough one for me.
Fight me, Tom. Fight me. Fight me. I'm here for it. I'm absolutely here for it. You didn't have a freak of an athlete like Cam Newton, back there for
of course
the opposing offense. So we could go days for days, but let me get to Clayton, my guy, real quick. Clayton Huron, how you doing, buddy? Hopefully you're doing well. Happy Valentine's Day to all our guys and gals out there in MHH. Hopefully you did something fun for your significant other, your family, your kids. I know we always try to do something for our little girl. And Clayton saying, been a while, working a lot these days, and just asked my girlfriend to marry me on Valentine's Day. Pump for this season. What'd she say, Clayton? I want to say congratulations, bud. I do. I want to say congratulations. I'm sure she said yes.
Yeah.
Congratulations, my friend.
Congrats, man.
That's huge. Awesome. That made my night, man. I'm smiling for you. Welcome. Welcome to a cool club, man. I'm a husband. Tom, you're a husband. We want to celebrate these things with you, Broncos country. So I appreciate you sharing that, Clayton.
And speaking of celebrating, I just want to give one quick shout out to my mom. It's her birthday today, a big decade birthday.
Happy birthday,
Hall.
Jackie.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful woman. Thank you for everything, and happy birthday. I hope it has been a wonderful day.
Yeah, happy birthday, Jackie. She's out there in Oregon. Tom, I wish I could ask her what you were like as a kid. I don't see you being too much of a troublemaker. I think you could definitely cause some mischief, and you're one of the smartest guys I know, so you like to think about things before you do them, but I'd have to know a story or two. What did little Thomas Hall get into that he shouldn't have gotten into? Phil McLaughlin coming in with a huge congratulations, and it's cool, man. It's cool to see our guys and gals up here. I got my guy, Greg. What's up, Greg? I know you've been having a tough time, man. Saying happy birthday to Tom's mom, Jackie. We absolutely love it. What's up, Seth? I see you, big dog. Lawrence Rivera coming in here as well. Got a huge crowd on us tonight. Scott on the ones and twos. Thomas Hall. You could get at Tom on Twitter. I'm going to plug this without looking at it. It's at Thomas Hall NFL.
That's right. Yeah.
And then yours truly will be at Luke Patterson LP. Scott's is at Scout Kennedy. Head on over to the mothership at Mile High Huddle. Again, Broncos country, we're going over some coaching staff reports, right? Because haven't got that official email from the Denver Broncos yet, officially stating coaches have been hired. But then again, it took a few days for Sean Payton's to get released as well. Zach Strief, offensive line coach last week, that was pretty much locked down. He was a former assistant with the Saints. Declan Doyle, tight end coach for your Denver Broncos, coming over as an offensive assistant from the Saints, previously with Iowa as well. Dan Dalrymple is going to be your new strength and conditioning coach. Spent 16 years over with the New Orleans Saints. He'll be replacing Lauren Landau. And then Logan Kilgore, offensive quality control coach. He's going to be in charge of the passing game. Most recently coached Arch Manning as the offensive coordinator over at Newman High School. And as you mentioned earlier, has got coaching experience in the college football ranks as well. We're also talking Rex Ryan, right? Because we're starting to see this offensive staff be put together. The big ones have yet to be named, of course. Wide receiver coach Zach Azzani, I know he's interviewing, right? So whether the Broncos retain his services, I guess that remains to be seen. Quarterback coach offensive coordinator, those things are still open, and we're
Yeah.
still going to probably hear some news about those. I did see Justin Alton got hired, I believe, as the Titans running game coordinator. I
Yeah.
think I
He went over to
saw
the
that on
Titans.
Twitter. Did
Yep.
he? Okay.
I believe it was the Titans as well. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I just wanted to say one last thing about Rex Ryan. And I know you and I go back and forth with Draymond Jones. And
Yeah.
we've been expecting this massive leap for him any day, right? Every year we're like Draymond Jones, he's gonna be the superstar, and he's always just a little bit short. He had a pretty good year this year, I think, but you look back at a historical great legend of Mile High, so to speak. Trevor Price, under Rex Ryan, had 13 sacks.
Ooh.
His best season, most like in sacks, really. And I kind of think about all the stuff I've been talking about. How Rex, there's some worries. If he could get Draymond Jones into that production like Trevor Price had that 1 year in Baltimore, that would be amazing, because that's what the Broncos need. They need that pass rush. They need to get to Mahomes. They need to get to Burrow. They need to get to all of them in order to make some noise in the playoffs and even get to the playoffs. Really, so that's
Yeah.
something I care about, right?
Yeah, you got to hit the quarterback. You got to hit him. You got to put him on his back. You got to make sure it stings. I'm
Yep.
not going out there and I'm not pulling a Greg Williams saying go out there. Too soon? Too soon for that one, Broncos country? No.
Yeah.
But you got to hit the quarterback. Michaela Israel's boy coming in. What's up, Cooper? Saying he's watching us and thinks we do a great job. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thank
It's
you.
cool, man. Anytime you have kids involved too, because I fell in love with radio and eventually podcasting and my dad's pickup truck, listening to Irvin Joe here in Denver, man. And my wife will tell you, having friends in the business and stuff like that, and doing a little myself, it's on my mind. It's on the podcast. It's on the speakers. It's on everywhere. And I think it's so cool when parents share something that they love. Like me, I'm a sports nerd. I'm a comic book nerd too. I like to share these things with my loved ones. It's cool, man. It's cool to see that we're getting love from our friends and family.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to start the Broncos young, like get them
Yeah, well,
Broncos fans
and I
early.
feel bad. I feel Cooper, it used to not be like this. This is not normal.
Yeah.
I tell my
Oh,
daughter this all the time. She's just a little bit older than you, bud. The Broncos are going to start winning football games soon, and you're going to be
absolutely.
able to wear that jersey to school, and everybody's going to wish they had the jersey that you're wearing. You just need to stay tuned, hang in there a little bit longer. Coach is trying to hire some coaches. Rex Ryan, man, I like it just because I think Rex Ryan is a motivator of men. I think he's able to get the best out of guys. I think he's a little bit of an idiot, sure. And I don't really have a problem saying that. I think Rex Ryan would probably agree with that. He's very outspoken. He's very dramatic, but he's honest. He's emotional. Sometimes he could be a little bit of an emotional wreck. But you know what? These guys that he's coaching are emotional too, and they feed off of that emotion. And you can call it corny. I hate it. Anytime Travis Kelce is talking into a microphone, because he should act like he's been there before. He's already got one ring. Now he's got two.
Right.
But at the same time, you can see that his teammates feed off of his energy in the locker room. That's not a facade. That's not BS. It's not mottos. It's him being him. And Rex being Rex could be very good for the Denver Broncos. I mean, I'm trying to think of, a different way to attack a Justin Herbert, a different way to attack Pat Mahomes. What are the Raiders going to do with quarterback, right? I mean, Derek Carr officially released yesterday, so he didn't get that $40 million or whatever. But the Raiders are looking to make a splash. They're going to try at least in the NFL draft. So
Yeah.
I'm okay with Rex Ryan. I love the high pressure. I have concerns as well. I do. 6 years is a long time to be out of this league, folks. It is. But it does not mean that he's going to step into the league and be speaking a new language. The guys are going to be relatively tuned in to what he would want as a defensive coordinator, and ultimately what Sean Payton wants. This is Sean Payton's show. He's going to dictate what kind of defense he wants. And that's why we're talking about this here on MHI right now. I mean, is the Rex Ryan defense the type of defense we want? I'm not so sure. Is he the type of defensive coordinator we want? Maybe. I like that guy with the chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, he's a good compliment, really, I think, maybe to Sean Payton. A little bit different, a little
Ooh.
more emotional. I don't know. I'm not sold on him yet. Definitely not. There are things to like. And the other thing too is everybody's defense is going one way, right? Everybody's starting to fall into that Fangio. We got to get that Fangio defense, and the masterminds of the cover two shells and things like that. Maybe a little bit of different defense is going to surprise some people. Who knows? It might work. And you were right. The one thing I do like is somebody that's fiery, that's willing to jump into the rivalries, to give the fans something to cheer about, get people motivated. It's going to be Rex Ryan is going to be totally different than what we've seen the last 6 years. And that, I mean,
Yeah.
that can be a good thing. And that's what we talked about on the show before, like getting rid of
Yeah.
players that may be good, but don't know anything but losing. The different might be good. It might be really crazy
And
bad too.
And you need a bad guy. You need a
Yep.
bad guy. And Russell Wilson's not a bad guy. He's been painted as the
Right.
villain, but he's not. He wants to be the hero so desperately bad that there's this foul stench in the air and this bad taste in the fan base's mouth right now. But that's an offensive problem. You need villains on this team. And what do I mean by that? Bill Romanowski, fantastic villain. Not a player I would say that I love, especially, but a guy the Denver Broncos needed. And you'll hear his former teammates talk about him. A bit of a live wire, a bit of a loose cannon. Absolutely. Hell of a teammate, guaranteed. And you
Absolutely.
need, I'm not talking a Scottie Pippen to MJ. I'm talking Dennis Rodman to MJ. I mean, you need some bad boy in there. And Rex Ryan is as bad boy as they get. Let's go get a, gosh damn snack. That's classic. That soundbite from Hard Knocks will forever be in my brain. Garth Knight, what's up, buddy? $4.99 super. Appreciate you, Garth. He's saying you two are selling me on Rex Ryan. I'm selling you on Rex Ryan. Tom isn't so sure. I'm warming up to the big guy. Happy birthday to Jackie. Appreciate you, Garth.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, and I'll just say that thing about what you were just talking about, having someone bad about Bill Romanowski. The thing was, he brought a championship mentality. That was the most important thing. It wasn't, that he was a dirty player, and that's going to keep him out of the Hall of Fame most likely. But he brought a championship mentality, and I'm not saying Rex Ryan has a championship mentality, but he's bringing in a different mentality. So if he does come in with a chip, like you said, a chip on their shoulder, and he's going to motivate these players to be a bit more, like you said, a little bit rough around the edges. But look at the 2015 defense, right? They had
TJ
Talib,
Ward. Yeah,
TJ Ward. I mean,
allegedly, TJ Ward allegedly throwing bottles in a club that doesn't sell bottles. You have Aqib Talib and everything that he's been known for. Yeah, you got some dogs on that team, man.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like, I'm not going to go to church with any of these guys, but like at the same time, do I want to win? Yeah. And that we've said it before too. Don't always meet your heroes, folks.
Right.
In no way, shape, or form. And I shared this on Facebook, and give me a little second to get on my pedestal. But you'll never hear me refer to these men as warriors ever. Not once, ever. They're not going to war. They're playing a professional football game. Rex Ryan can motivate men to get ready for a professional football game.
That's right.
He can talk them up and get them to believe like they're going out there and playing for their lives. Yep. I mean, truly. And in a sense, maybe they are. We just saw, a huge, scary thing happen with Damar Hamlin. You've seen players seriously injured before, if not paralyzed. I mean, so to a certain extent, there's a ton of risk. And I love the fact that Rex Ryan is able to get these guys up. It's probably not going to be the most PC defensive room in the world if you're going to be around Rex Ryan, but that's something that I'm okay with. Ejiro Evero, been around him just a little bit last summer. Complete gentleman. A gentleman, an absolute gem. That's why I was so floored when we were hearing the reports that his interview didn't go well with the Broncos, because you're thinking, man, he's so nice. But you know what? A lot of people sometimes they take truth for being rude. And sometimes a person's truth is a little bit different than yours. It doesn't mean they're being rude. It means they're being honest. So don't ask for the truth if you really don't want it. So Phil, I hear you. Rex is loved in the locker room. Speaking of D, are any edge guys going to be available? The first name that comes to mind for me is because I saw it on Twitter, and he's one of my favorite players ever, Calais Campbell, right? In a little exchange with Micah Parsons and the Dallas Cowboys. Calais Campbell is like the Tom Brady of the defensive line. He's old, he's great, and he's slowing down barely. I'd be okay with Calais Campbell finally coming home. You should have came home 10 years ago, big fella, when you were a free agent and you went to Arizona. or no, did he come from Arizona to Jacksonville?
Arizona to Jacksonville. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that's
That
what it was. And
Jackson
if
is, yep. That's when he spurned the Broncos the first time, really was
I,
then the Broncos tried to sign him. He went
I
to
know.
Jacksonville.
I know.
Yeah.
You could have seen D Wolf and Calais Campbell a lot sooner. And I'm not talking about that Baltimore Ravens mess. Michaela Israel, $2 super. Thank you so much, Michaela. Appreciate you being so active in the chat. Hopefully Cooper is doing well. Also getting some super stickers in. Pair of fists.
Nice.
I love those double bumps, man. Double bumps, a Broncos fan. Next time you see him, and if you see a Broncos fan or a Raider fan, a Charger fan, Chiefs fan, buck them. Wear that
Buck 'em.
t-shirt over on huddleuppod.com. Cooper picked the super sticker. We appreciate you, Cooper. Thank you
Yeah.
so
Thank you
much,
so
man.
much.
And
Yeah.
huge
Thank you.
nucks to you as well, brother.
I
Free
you know,
agent edge.
I just want to say that the Broncos don't need to have to really go get edge. They just have to get their edges healthy. That's been the problem. Randy Gregory needs to play a full season, for crying out loud.
They need to go get edge.
I mean, that's been the problem. They did trade away Chubb. So really they've got what they need is Gregory to stay healthy, Browning to play like he's been playing. They need to get Benito stronger, get him to fill in. And then after that, I don't think you need a superstar edge. You've got your superstar allegedly in Randy Gregory, if he can play. And you got Browning, who can play pretty dang well. And then you got Benito, who needs to step up. And then after that, you've got Cooper and a few other people. I mean, you can go out and spend big money if you want to. I don't think they need to spend the big money on the edge rusher. I think they need to work on the defensive line and get some more interior pressure. They need to get Draymond Jones over that proverbial going to be a superstar hump that we've been talking about him getting over, and then bring in another defensive lineman who can not only play against the run, but get to the passer from the interior.
Your attitude goes, a team's attitude usually goes like the O-line and D-line goes. That's been the old adage for a long time. Some teams don't, and it's very, very rare. But, I mean, that's a huge core of your guys, right? 5 up front on offense, 4 up front, sometimes 3 on defense, but it's rotating. So at any given time, you're looking at just less than a dozen guys who are starters that are your nucleus of your team. So I think it's very important that the Broncos figure out not only what they're going to do with their coaching staff, but how do we upgrade? When you start talking to free agents and looking at some, I mean, Robert Quinn at age 32.7, okay, he's probably top of the list. Brandon Graham, Unique Ngakwe, I would be thrilled to have him here, but that probably means that Draymond Jones is gone, Dalton Reisner's gone. These guys are going to command some money, these free agents, right, coming into Denver. Maybe you can attract a big name edge rusher like Ngakwe with those Rex Ryan sack statistics and get him to take a little bit less. Russell Wilson, does he want to come back to a little bit of this thing called reality and give some dollars back? I don't know. I wouldn't.
I don't know.
But his new deal hasn't even kicked in yet, and people are already wondering, would he take a restructure? These are things that are absolutely critical when you look at the Denver Broncos coming into this draft with what, Tom, 6 picks? I mean, as it sits today.
Yeah, they need to fill in. I've been saying this. They have got to use free agency to fill in the roster holes and then go to the draft and try and pick some players for the future. That's the problem. It's they have to spend the money. And that's a bummer to a certain extent, because most of the time when you look at free agency, you're paying, and I've said this before, you're paying for what they've done in the past. You're rewarding them for the past performance. What they really need to do is focus on finding someone who's going to play to their potential and reward the team for giving them the money. And that's the big kicker, is who are they going to find on a 1-year deal that isn't already kind of worn out their legs, so to speak, on the edge. And even the D line. D lineman lasts a little bit longer if they're not a heavy D lineman, if they're not the 350 pounders. But yeah, I don't want to go out and pay big money for an edge. But if they have to, because they're not comfortable with Gregory staying healthy, that's going to be a huge pill to swallow. He did not live up to his contract this last go around. And to pay another big one, I can't do it.
No, and I don't think Walton would be down, right? I mean, or Mr. Penner, I should say. Greg Penner definitely putting the shortening up that leash a little bit on George Payton. And it's going to be interesting to see the way they attack the offseason, specifically free agency and the NFL draft. I think George Payton is going to be the guru with the draft. I think Sean Payton is going to be the guy in free agency.
Yeah.
And that's just the way I'm guessing structure is going to be. Again, we talked about it on MHI last week. Sean Payton probably has some, I know he has some guarantees in that contract, but he probably has control of the front office, if we're being honest. Now, they probably wrote it up in all kinds of nice lawyer language that I didn't go to school for, and I'll never pretend to even know. But at the end of the day, I think Sean Payton and George Payton, they're even. No guy's above the other. And if that's the case, Sean's probably just a little bit above George. But I think that power was definitely shifted. Would Greg Penner want to shell out the money for another pass rusher? No, because he shelled out the money for the pass rusher from Dallas, Randy Gregory. Can't play, right, for a variety of different reasons, injuries this year. Then you shelled out a second round pick for Nick Bonito.
Yep.
I mean, what did Nick Bonito do this year? And I like Nick Bonito. I don't love him, but I like him. He's a nice enough guy. We saw him out there at training camp and looks just like a developmental pass rusher. Looks no different, in my opinion, than a guy like Jonathan Cooper, who I fell in love with a couple years ago at the Senior Bowl. But same thing. Turn it on, man. It is time to turn it on or get going, because just like cornerbacks, edge rushers are one of the deepest positions in this NFL draft.
Yeah, and that's the problem that we've seen with Benito is he's a situational pass rusher at best right now. He can come in and rush the passer. He can't. I didn't see him setting the edge well against the run, so he's a little bit of a liability there. And when he did get his chance to pass rush, he didn't get home very often. So he's got a lot of growth. I think he can get there. I think he has the talent. I think he's got a nice bend. He's got nice quickness off the line. But yeah, he's got to bulk up a little bit, get a little stronger, be able to set that edge if he's going to play full time. And you invest a second round draft choice, you expect that player to be more than just a situational pass rusher going forward. But unfortunately, he didn't see the field even with all the injuries that much. He didn't see the field, so
we don't know why.
Yeah, well, I think it's because he didn't have the strength to hold up in the running game. You can't just go out there and rush the passer all the time. You've got to be able to set the edge.
If you're right, which I think you are, that is a direct indictment on George Payton, and he told us about it. I think he had immediate regret when he took Nick Bonito. Again, I think George Payton regrets taking Nick Bonito. Why? The very first thing he says about Nick Bonito, other than he's a fantastic pass rusher, we can't wait to see what he can do, and blah, blah, blah. He says, we know he needs to get in the weight room. We know he needs to get in the weight. I'm sitting here thinking, Jesus, George, way to sell a fan base on your first pick. I get it. He's a second rounder, but your first pick of the 2022 draft, and he's got to get in the weight room. No, we need this guy to get in there and put Pat Mahomes on his ass. And instead, I've got you doing squats with Lauren Landau last year. It ain't going to work. Yeah. Keith Brugman coming in. What value do the Broncos need to trade Garrett Bowles? This, I guess, was the rumor yesterday on Twitter. We talked about it a little off air. Again, I use the word rumor because that's all it is right now. Apparently, there was a rumor from Twitter suggesting that Garrett Bowles is being shopped. I haven't heard of this. I immediately think this is untrue. Why? Because George Payton moves in silence. That's one thing we knew. We do know, too. I mean, we didn't know what was happening with the head coaching search. We didn't know what happened with Russell Wilson. That came from nowhere, and we all thought it was Aaron Rodgers. I was reporting that it was going to be Aaron Rodgers last year in Las Vegas based off of people I was talking with. I didn't go out and guarantee or say I would throw money to a charity or anything like that, but we know that George Payton was definitely working in silence. Why would he want to report of Garrett Bowles coming after a season-ending injury to get out there for a trade? I don't believe it. I refuse to believe it. Could it be a possibility? Sure, it could be a possibility. I mean, but anything is possible. Channeling my Kevin Garnett right now. I mean, talking to folks, guys and gals on the road in Mobile, in Las Vegas, they all are asking about the Broncos offensive line. So 5 out of 5, 4 out of 5 starters returning next year? No, that's never been the conversation. It's, are you guys getting a brand new offensive line? Was Butch Berry really the problem? Yes, Butch Berry was really the problem. And Garrett Bowles, the Broncos aren't shopping him.
Yeah, this is the thing. Well, there's two things that give me pause on this whole rumor. Number one, like you said, it's been super quiet coming out of Dove Valley. These insiders who have sources, I don't trust it anymore at all. Back, in the John Elway run days, sure, things got leaked, but we saw it in real time. Nobody saw what was happening. No, everyone was hush hush with the whole head coaching job. So the insiders, I don't put much stock into them anymore because they're guessing now in my mind. They're guessing. They really are.
Guessing and calling it per source guarantee. And
I-
I'll say this real quick, based on what I've heard. And I say based on what I've heard. I don't go out there and say per source. I don't go out there and make up a bunch of BS just to float my name out there. What I've heard, Greg Penner talks to one guy in the
Yep.
media, and that one guy is a big national fish, and his name is not Ian Rappaport. So if you're talking to one guy and you're Greg Penner in Broncos country, you know who I'm talking about. He's
Yep.
covered the Broncos for years. All right. Like, that's all I need to say. That's where information is going to come from or not come from. George Payton, Greg Penner, and the Walton ownership group, they move in silence. They do not like
That's right.
this stuff out and about. That's why it's kind of funny who it's coming from, too.
Yeah. And the second thing that I want to, there are three other positions that need to be addressed on the offensive line. You're going to trade Bulls. That makes four. Basically, your entire offensive line needs to be redone in one offseason. I just don't see it. And it could happen. I mean, someone could blow them away with a draft package for Bulls who is injured, whose draft capital is probably at the lowest it's been in the last 2 years. I don't see it happening. They've got too much other stuff to address. They got to address guard, they got to address right tackle, and they got to address center. And if they get rid of Bulls, that's going to be a pretty tough offensive line to rebuild. Garth Knight, thank you for coming in.
Just real quick, Broncos country. If you're worried about losing an offensive lineman, it shouldn't be Garrett Bowles. It should be Dalton Reisner. I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I'm worried. No, I'm not hearing things per source, any of that crap. I'm just telling you, the man is very proud of where he's from, right? Wiggins High School. He's hanging a Broncos jersey up there, getting in the Hall of Fame. Just posted it on Twitter or Facebook in his high school in Wiggins High School. I'm thinking, man, is that the last time we're going to see like Dalton Reisner in a Broncos jersey? Is he celebrating something? I mean, it's hard, and I wonder, but you're Dalton Reisner too. Do you want to test the water somewhere else, man? I mean, sometimes it's good to get out of your element a little bit. It was good for him to go play college football away from home. Maybe he wants to start a family somewhere else, guys. I mean, times are tough. Sometimes moving to a state where there's no income tax might be better for you financially. Dalton Reisner, free agent. The Broncos didn't commit to him. I know it pissed him off. He made sure to tell you it pissed him off. On State Sponsored, he said it pissed him off. So Dalton Reisner, be ready for him to potentially walk away. Garrett Bowles trade, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't think Risner's coming back. Reisner, I think I pronounced it wrong.
I don't think he's
Risner
coming
all
either.
the time. He's not. I don't think he's coming back.
And I take him. I want him back. I do. As the guard, and we've talked about it on this show, the guard position in the NFL draft and with free agents, man, it's a little thin, Tom.
Yeah. There's going to be a competition for people like Ben Powers, right? There's going to be a competition where teams are going to be paying more for the guard position because they want to go solidify that guard position, and it's pretty slim pickings.
Yeah, and if I hate to say it, and Scott's kind of saying it in the comment section, but he's right. I back it up. Dalton has done so much work off the field that should be celebrated. I'm proud of, especially being a Coloradan. Man, like, I love it. Absolutely love it. He's everything you want your daughter to marry, right? Like, that's Dalton Reisner, man. Yeah. But at the end of the day, we're talking about how well can you block? How well can you pass protect? How well can you run block? How well can you pick up coverages? Dalton's been asked to do a lot since day one. All right. And hearing some, colorful commentary from some former Broncos offensive line coaches that are no longer here. His rookie year, he was brought in to fix Garrett Bowles. Garrett Bowles was broken until Dalton Reisner got here. Dalton Reisner should get some of that money out of Garrett Bowles' contract because he was helping Garrett Bowles a lot. The next year, they draft Lloyd Cushenberry. Surprise, Dalton. we know you played center. We know you know your stuff. How about you get out there and help our center make the calls, who, by the way, is calling out and pointing out the Mike linebacker for Drew Lock because he doesn't know who the Mike linebacker is in pre-snap coverage. These are
Right.
the problems. These are the problems we have on the offensive line. So I hope that Zach Strief can fix it. Again, reported as the new Broncos offensive line coach within the last week. We'll have to see. We've got about 10 more minutes. I want to make sure we're getting to everybody in the show here that we didn't get to. Scott coming in with a welcome back, Scott. Two Scotts don't make it right. Hope vacation was good. Quentin coming in here as well. Dalton Reisner will be no love lost. Nah, Quentin, I gotta say, Broncos country will be pissed if that's the case. They'll be upset. George Payton will be the devil. Greg Penner will be the devil. Russell Wilson will be the devil. Anybody who got paid that was not named Dalton Reisner will be the devil if Dalton Reisner rides off into the sunset. And I got a huge problem with a guy like Alex Singleton down at the Super Bowl, Tom. And Mike Kliss is asking him, man, you had a great season. You think about coming back to Denver? Oh, I'd love to come back to Denver, but they're still finalizing their coaching stuff and said
Yeah.
they'd get to us later. What? Like, this game is won by players, and make
Yeah.
no mistake, Andy Reid said that, and I will totally agree with it at the Super Bowl. I mean, coaching, very important. I'm not saying that Sean Payton shouldn't be zeroed in, but my God, let's go, coach. I need you to finish this up a little bit, because we got other Broncos that need to start talking about their contract. Their agents are wondering what's going on, and the more time that's waiting, the more bothered they could potentially become.
Yeah, and it's funny because I'm not. I like Alex Singleton, tackling machine. He brings back the memories of Michael Brooks for me, who could. I mean,
Ooh,
you
okay.
won't find 4 seasons in a row better for tackles than Michael Brooks in Broncos country. If you're excluding obviously Gradishar, but the problem was he wasn't making impact plays. And I'm talking about he wasn't getting interceptions. He wasn't getting a lot of fumble recoveries. He wasn't forcing a lot of fumbles. And
Mm,
that's what I see Alex Singleton as. He tackles great, but in today's game, you've got to give your offensive more chances. You've got to take those balls away and give it to your offense. Alex Singleton didn't do that enough for my liking. And I like angles. I love
How
tackling
about
machines.
How about Josie Jewell? Does he do that significantly
No,
more than
he
Alex
does not
Singleton?
either. Neither one of
And
them are today's linebackers, really. I love
thank
Josie
you.
Jewell. I
Did you
love
hear that,
Josie
Nick?
Jewell.
Did you hear that, Nick? No, I'm right there with you, brother. You're exactly right. I mean, you're talking about two absolute workhorses and dogs, and I didn't
Yeah.
see Alex Singleton bursting onto the scene this year. We're
Yeah.
sitting next to each other, sweating out there at camp, and I'm thinking, dude, this guy ain't gonna make the team. Then you start watching him and looking at the others, and Jonas Griffith goes down, who I thought was going to have a huge year this year. That was a huge bummer, but you've got to upgrade the linebacking position, and you're right. You've got to have impact plays. You've
Yep.
got to have forced fumbles. You got to have tipped balls are an
Yep.
impact play now. If I'm
Yep.
I'm out there scouting, I'm looking for, I can't believe it, actual defensive linemen with long arms now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm
Yep.
curious, oh man, what's your reach like? Because hey, you may not be able to get to the QB, but I'll be the first to say I miss some of those Shelby Harris pass deflections. I do. I miss them. I don't miss all the BS and drama on Twitter, but I definitely would like to see a defensive lineman or a linebacker get their hands up a little bit more and try to affect the pass. Garth Knight, man, we appreciate you, bro. You've been so active tonight. Thank you so much for joining Tom, Scott, and I here on New Look MHI. What game do y'all consider the worst offensive line performance last season? My pick is the road game in Vegas, but I didn't watch the Christmas Day game. Mine was going to say mine is the Christmas Day game. And Garth, I'm so happy that you didn't watch it, and I hope you had a Merry Christmas, because it ruined Christmas for so many here in Broncos country. You saw an offensive line that quit. And when guys openly quit, and then you've got Brett Rippon and Dalton Reisner on the sideline, Latavius Murray with a little bit of shoving, it's embarrassing. And it was a bad look. And that's what ultimately led to Nathaniel Hackett getting the axe. How about you, Tom? Give me the worst
Yeah.
offensive line game for Garth last year.
Man, I don't know. I can't recall, but
Ooh,
the,
Scott saying versus the Colts. That's pretty good. You
yeah,
almost just cursed there, Scott. That's
yeah,
pretty effing good. I like that
yeah,
one.
for sure. The one where it seemed like it was a mad rush to the quarterback on every play. I feel like it was in the first half of the Chiefs game was just awful, awful. But I can't recall, and I'm sorry. I have so much the history shoved in
Yeah,
my brain.
PTSD. Yeah,
I can't
off
remember the
Denver Broncos
early stuff.
offensive line PTSD. Yeah,
Yeah,
Garth, let's just scrap all that, man. And that's one thing I
yeah.
did like about Vic, just a little. I don't think a head coach should ever do it, but when they're like, "Coach," and the Senior Bowl was going on, what did you think of last year's film? I didn't watch last year's film. And it was like, yeah, maybe we should scrap all
Yeah.
that and start over.
We should
But
scrap the
you got
last 6 years.
that's just it, man. I mean, you got to know what you're dealing with because this change, I do think this change with the Denver Broncos turning their seasons around and their culture around, it's going to happen quick. What is quick? I think quick is the offseason. I think quick is training camp. I think quick is the immediate future that we're looking at right now. And I think Sean Payton is probably already advising some guys, and especially in the PR department, hey, watch what you're saying on Twitter. Watch how you're acting in the offseason. Let's tighten things up where we can a little bit. And I think you're going to see some of those small changes. That's
Yep.
Sean Payton's deal, man. He talks about details. His whole press conference had me sold because it was about details from Club Dub with the loudspeakers on the road to the towels. The Saints needed more towels or something like that. The little details is what brings a team together. And it's what really brings humanity together when you think about it, Tom. Some of the smallest, stupidest stuff makes me so happy. It really does. If you
Yeah.
were to ask me, like, what are some of your prized possessions? I would say one of them is worth maybe $2. It's this brass hose nozzle that my buddy had built for me that I use on my garden hose. It's technically a wildland fire nozzle, and I use
Okay.
it on my garden hose to water my lawn. I love that thing. I freaking love it. It's not worth anything, but I know what it's going to do for me when I need it. And that's what this Broncos team needs, man. If you're going to get motivated from a cool song at the end of a road game that you just dominated in Arrowhead, turn that up, man.
Yep.
Let's do it and let's party. So I'm optimistic, but let's hurry this staff up, Tom.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to just say that the little things are important. I mean, you go back to the Sun Tzu's Art of War, and if you worry about the little
Ooh.
things, you don't have to worry about the big things, right? And that's the thing. You can come in with this big philosophy, and you try and bring everybody together with these big sweeping statements. But when you start to get into the little things and make those right, the big things just kind of fall into place. And I think that's what Sean Payton is trying to do.
I agree. And real quick, we got just a few more minutes left of tonight's MHI. You guys have been freaking awesome tonight, man.
Thank
Our
you.
yeah, just in 2 weeks, our new look show, man. It's hitting hot, it's hitting fast, it's hitting furious. For those of y'all that don't know, MHI, we've got some new faces. A good looking face over here with me, Thomas Hall. Scott's still on the ones and twos. No need to worry. You'll still see Nick Kendall every Tuesday night in Building the Broncos. And then he's also doing Broncos for breakfast with Scott. And he's also covering the Falcons with Scott's other channel as well. So Nick didn't go anywhere except Hawaii this last week where he had a really good time. Glad that he did. Mike Ronquillo coming in. Great show tonight. Luke and Tom on MHI. Thank you so much, Mike. You've been such a huge supporter. Go Broncos. Buck 'em. Mike, I want to see that Buck 'em shirt because Mike drips MHH swag all day, every day. And he's proud of it. And I love to see it on Twitter, man. So as soon as you get that Buck 'em shirt, tag me in it, Mike. I want to see those orange threads on you. And it's super cool to know Mike is representing Broncos country out there in Arizona.
The Broncos need to back it up. That's all I've got to say. If we're going to be out here with Buckham shirts, the Broncos need to start winning. So we did the Let's Ride thing and it didn't work out, but we need to see this turnaround. Wear our Buckham shirts proud. Wear our our right off to the sunset. Whatever we've got, Broncos jerseys. We need to see some wins, and we need to see it happen this season. It's
Now we needed it
we need
yesterday.
it now.
We needed
Badly.
it yesterday. Yeah, we needed it 6 years ago. And that's just it.
Yep.
When you start to talk about what does a Broncos season look like that's good, for me, it's not really the end of the record at the end of the day. It's sweeping the Raiders, splitting with the Chargers, and splitting with the Chiefs. That's a good first year for me. It really is. I mean, if Sean Payton, and I want that win on the road. You
Yep.
come here and you beat the Broncos ass, Kansas City. You go right ahead. I want that win for the Broncos in Arrowhead. Like I want that. It's like driving everybody crazy. The Chiefs have the title, deservingly so. even though the refs helped them. But the Broncos have got to figure it out. Again, Broncos coaching staff, Zach Strief on the offensive line. Declan Doyle reports naming him as the tight end coach. Dan Dalrymple is going to be the strength and conditioning coach with reports today. And Logan Kilgore, former offensive coordinator Arch Manning at Newman High School, is going to be the offensive quality control coach in the passing game. So starting to see it. I imagine we're going to have some more news trickle in tomorrow, but the big one's got to be coming soon. We talked to Rex Ryan a little bit on the show. Go back and listen wherever you get your podcast. Leave us a rating as well. Tom also let the cat out of the bag that there's a 2010 New York Jets Rex Ryan playbook out there on Google, available now on google.com. Go ahead and take a peek at that, Broncos country. I know I'm going to be doing so. It's going to take about 80 pages, it looks like. Seth coming in here, Buckham. Absolutely love it. Robbie, I love your hate with KC. We can't be saying that. You can get me in trouble with the YouTube gods. Dylan Von Arks, great conversation as always, everybody. Make sure you share the pod on all platforms and hit that like button on the way out. A little bit does go a long way. And be sure to hit up my guy, Dylan. He does hard, strenuous work. He supports us so much on these pods. He supports us on Twitter and supports us at milehighhuddle.com. Be sure to head on over to milehighhuddle.com where you can read work from Tom, Dylan, Chad, Zach, everybody, Nick. And we'll just keep on rocking and roll. Mike coming in here real quick. I mostly just lurk in the background and watch, but I had to say my Buckham t-shirt is on its way. We appreciate that, Mike. Chime in anytime you want, buddy. And Tom, good show, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, this is fun. And we got into some really good stuff. It's awesome that we found Rex Ryan playbook, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. I hope that the time that they take to get these offensive defensive coordinators aren't just, we'll just grab, Joe Lombardi kind of thing. Hopefully this is a thoughtful process and not just delayed for other reasons.
Yeah, they're taking their time. That's for sure. And I got to hope and wonder that it's for good reason. Guys, Tom's going to be back at it Friday morning and Saturday. Sure. Scott's going to be on it with Nick here in the mornings as well. So stay tuned to Mile High Huddle. Head on over to milehighhuddle.com. Get at the mothership at Mile High Huddle. You get it yours truly at Luke Patterson LP at Thomas Hall NFL. Again, we appreciate the support, guys. Never any BS, just some laughs, good times, no guarantees, no per source, no charity donation, none of that craziness. We're here for Broncos football, man, and we are here to celebrate you. Happy birthday to Jackie, Tom's mom. Congratulations to Clayton Huron and his engagement. Congratulations to Michaela Israel on graduating. I mean, we have so much to celebrate here in Broncos country. Thank you for letting us celebrate it with you. He's Tom. For Scott, I'm Luke. Go Broncos.